Tänd ett ljus och låt det brinna. Låt aldrig hoppet försvinna. Det är mörkt nu, men det blir ljusare igen. Tänd ett ljus för allt du tror på, för den här planeten vi bor på. Tänd ett ljus för jordens barn. Jag såg en stjärna falla. Det var i natt när alla sov. Jag tror jag önskade att du var nära. För en minut sen brann den, en sekund sen försvann den. Var det bara jag som såg? På radion sjöng de om fred på jorden. Jag ville tro de slitna orden. Tänd ett ljus och låt det brinna. Låt aldrig hoppet försvinna. Det är mörkt nu, men det blir ljusare igen. Tänd ett ljus för allt du tror på, för den här planeten vi bor på. Tänd ett ljus för jordens barn. Jag fick ett kort från Wenham. Jag visste inte var det låg. Jag såg på kartan, du är på andra sidan jorden. Men det är samma himmel, det är samma hav och stjärnan som jag såg. För allting som vi drömmer, för att vi aldrig glömmer. Tänd ett ljus och låt det brinna. Låt aldrig hoppet försvinna. Det är mörkt nu, men det blir ljusare igen. Tänd ett ljus för allt du tror på, för den här planeten vi bor på. Tänd ett ljus för jordens barn. God jul och gott nytt år. Lova var rädd om dig själv, en älskling du får.
Hi everyone, and really hope you got some good inspirations for some of the top trending TikTok videos in the Nordics right now. And also big welcome. We will talk about building successful shopping and catalog ads using product feeds and Channable, and how to really optimize this for next year. So Thomas, I am so happy to say a big welcome to you today. So tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jonas. Thanks you. Yeah, really happy to be here. As said, yeah, I'm Thomas. I'm the Nordic account executive with Channable, and although I am the Nordic account executive, I actually spend my days sat here in the Netherlands. But luckily, I still get the chance to speak to my fellow Vikings once in a while. I've been working in e-commerce for coming up to 2 years now. So I kind of joined when the whole COVID boom, let's say, was ongoing. So it's been a hell of a time for e-commerce, and I'm really grateful that Jonas that you've invited me along. really appreciate it.
Great. And I mean, Keywordio, we have a really long and strong collaboration with you guys at Channable. Both Morten, our founder, and Rob, your founder, is dear friends, and we have met on many of the bigger Google events all over Europe. So yeah, it's really happy to run this webinar together with you guys today. So why can't you miss this? So we will share, like always, we will really try to explain why you should do things and also why this is important. And like always, we will save some of the bits and pieces and also an offer to the end. So look forward to see you guys joining in and follow the full webinar together with us today. So what we will talk about, the agenda. Thomas, you will talk more about how to create better catalog ads, how to optimize your product feed and really understand the details of it. Then I will share more of the best practice, some insights on how to use this for both understanding price points, assortment, and how to optimize Google, Meta, and TikTok. And really how to use this all the way through the full funnel, I would say. So before I hand over to you, Thomas, just a brief on what we do at Keywordio. So Keywordio, we are really a full funnel marketing agency. And what does that really mean? That means that we help our customers all the way from the top of the funnel with creative content, for example, and helps to adjust the content to really make an impact on channels like TikTok, Meta. We believe that many of you have really good assets, but it's maybe not optimized for the channel specifically. Then we work closer going through the funnel with paid social and paid search all the way down to the bottom where it's about market automation, CRM, and building loyalty. And of course, the last piece, which is getting more and more important these days, it's about data and how to work with measurement and with privacy. And of course, feeding this back up to the loop so you can improve the performance on your channels. So that is what we call a full funnel marketing agency. And that is what we are doing at Keywordio. So Thomas, take it away.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, Jonas. And I'm actually going to jump right in where you left off, because data that is so important for you guys to work with is actually also one of my favorite words. We love data. At Channable, we basically say product data is king. Now, what I see is basically the majority of e-commerce companies, they have quite a lot of data for every single product in their catalog. But the thing is, it's not enough just to have the product data, right? If you're not putting that data to good use, then there's pretty much no point in gathering it. Building a feed manually, though, that contains all of your data, that can be a really heavy, really time-consuming, and to be completely honest, a very dull task to be faced with. Now, if you're selling hundreds of thousands of products via online channels, and you may be adding hundreds of products every day to your product catalog, the time you would spend on manually adding these products to every single channel that you are advertising or selling on, it's almost painful to think about. So automating that process can really save massive amounts of not just time, but also money. At the end of the day, we're all people, we're all human, right? And the easier that something can be made for us, the better. And this is something that, well, from what I've seen, Nordic e-commerce companies have really started to catch on to. And that's why automation seems to be the golden word at the moment. There's a lot of buzz around the word automation. Now, as you can see, 2 GIFs in a row. This is my youthful way of storytelling, so please do bear with me. I love a good GIF. Now, a typical conversation that I have with e-commerce managers or digital marketing managers who come to me basically tell me they use one feed and they push that feed out to all of their marketing channels. Now, these feeds tend to get rejected because of their kind of one-size-fits-all approach. The thing is, that's not how it works on the various marketing channels. And if you go for a one-size-fits-all approach, well, you end up stuck like our poor fella on the GIF here, going back and forth quite a lot, but never really actually going somewhere. Now, if it was the case that all channels wanted the same, the world of digital marketing would be, let's be honest, a much easier place to be, but I would also be out of a job. Now, often the people I speak to are quite frustrated. And that's because the channels that they push their data to, let's take Google Shopping as an example, it may reject their product data because they say their feed is not good enough, but they don't give any further explanation as to why they've done so. Now, this can lead to kind of a search for a needle in a haystack, let's say, which is massively wasting time, trying to discover which of the attributes you've sent to Google isn't meeting the requirements, or which attribute is missing from the requirements that they have. Now, you may be sat there now thinking, okay, awesome, we know all this, but we came here today to find out what the solution is. Well, awesome, you indeed came to the right place, because the solution is a feed management tool that can drastically improve your lives as digital marketeers or e-commerce managers. Yeah, if I can just
and thanks, Thomas, for reminding me that this is my favorite scene from Austin Powers. I love it.
It's a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Now, as luck would have it, I actually know of a pretty good tool myself when it comes to feed management, and I am fortunate enough to get to work for them. At Channable, we offer an all-in-one solution for managing your product data feeds. And this essentially allows you to market all of your products from a single platform. That sounds very nice, but the big question is, how does this actually work in practice? Well, let's take a look. There we go. Now, your data is most likely currently in some kind of e-commerce platform, right? Such as Shopify, Magento, maybe it's in a different custom built e-commerce platform. And regardless of where your data is, we will find a way to extract it and get that into Channable. Once the data is in the tool, it's time to start optimizing and enriching that data to make sure that it meets the requirements of the channel that you want to push this data out to. Now, this can be, for example, adding product categories. This can be filtering out products with poor data, or potentially price optimizations for individual channels. A lot of things are possible when it comes to optimizing and enriching the data. After the manipulation of your data, you're ready to get that data out to the channel that it's been put together for, right? Now, generally, this is done via an XML file, as this is the most commonly accepted format for the various advertising channels. But this can also be a CSV file, a JSON file. It could be an API connection even. And that all depends on the specific channel's requirements. Luckily, this isn't something that you have to find out yourself. We do that hard work for you to make sure that we can eliminate any mistakes from happening. It really is as easy as that. And I promise from my side that that's the last GIF I'm going to put in there. If we move on, then I can share that Channable has three main parts to its solution. They are the PPC campaign automation tool, the marketplace integration with order synchronization, and the feed management tool. Now, feed management is where we started as Channable 8 years ago, and that's of course also the main focus of today's session. Now, if we jump on to the next slide, then I can share that we actually, if you take all languages and variations into consideration, offer over 2,500 feed templates in Channable. So it's very likely that you will be able to find the exact channel that you're looking to export to via Channable's tool. Even if you don't find the right template, you can always create custom feeds. Now, looking into what you actually need to do to your data, an important first step to take when setting up your feeds is product categorization. Now, let's imagine you are selling a large variety of products, ranging from kitchen equipment down to children's clothing. You have thousands of unique SKUs, and manually categorizing them would take forever if you're going to get it to match the category taxonomy from the channel that you're looking to set up. Here, it can be really useful to use an automation tool to quickly map the products in your feed to the corresponding categories from that channel. What you see on the screen right now is an example from Google Shopping. Here, using an attribute in my data set called product category, an automation tool will create one long list of all of the unique values I have for the attribute product category. And it will then take a guess at mapping these products to the relevant category from the channel. So on the right side here, what you see is actually the exact product categories from Google's side. Now, this can be a really handy tool and can save a lot of time if you're having a lot of products that you need to set up on a lot of channels. But, and this is an important but, it will only work if you have data in your initial feed, which clearly tells us what type of product we're looking at. Now, in my example here, the attributes are quite clear. Boys' t-shirts, girls' dresses. There can't be much doubt about what we are selling here. So a tool will quite easily be able to guess which of the categories this product needs to be mapped to. Now, what I see in a lot of companies' feeds is that they have categories such as summer, Black Friday, Christmas. A category like summer is going to leave everybody guessing what the product actually is. Is it ice cream or is it a bikini? And this is partly why the quality of the data is so important here. You need to have something you can use to map your products.
Thomas, I think this is just a great example of categorization. Do you have any other sort of smart rules that you see web shops are using, or I mean, to make their life easier and smarter?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think one example I can bring up here, actually related to the categorization, is a lot of companies have these attributes, right, called summer and Black Friday, where a whole range of products could be in them. And there are kind of two solutions for that. One solution, which is the most time-consuming one, is to go back to your back end and manually add a new product category to every single product, which can take a while. The other solution, which is something where you could build smart rules, for example, is to start looking at other data you have available for that product to make an estimation of which category it belongs to. So if I say, if it's in the category summer, let's say, and you're selling bikinis, well, there's quite a big chance that the word bikini is going to be in the product title also. So there you could create a rule that says, if title contains bikini, set product category to bikini, for example. So these kind of smart rules can help avoid having to go back to the back end and spend a long time optimizing your data there. But generally, I would recommend, before you even import your data into a tool like Channable, make sure that you have clear categories. Yeah, it's an excellent question. Excellent question. Yeah. Now, as I mentioned before, and as I'm sure a lot of you already know, each channel that you want to push your data to has different requirements when it comes to the data feed. And whereas most channels have very similar standard attributes, such as title, price, a product URL, it's not a given that all channels share the same mandatory attributes. As a minimum, you will always need to provide the mandatory attributes, but there can also be really great value in sending the recommended attributes. This extra data and the recommended attributes will ultimately make it easier for the end consumer to evaluate whether this is actually the right product for them. And that makes sure that the traffic coming into your website is actually the traffic you want. We don't want to be paying for clicks on your ads for unqualified buyers. And having the right data can help avoid that. What you see on your screen right now are the mandatory and recommended requirements for Google Shopping. These are quite similar to the requirements from Facebook. So if we jump to the next one, then we indeed see Facebook. And I just want to offer a little comparison here. The data requirements for Facebook and Google don't differ much with regards to their mandatory and recommended attributes, but they do differ enough to make it necessary to have a separate feed per channel. That's very important to point out. If we jump to the next slide here, we can look a little bit deeper into some concrete differences between Google and Meta's feeds here. The first one is availability. No surprise, Availability is a mandatory attribute for both of these channels. Of course, both Google and Meta want to know, is your product in stock or out of stock? But what we can see here is that the data they need for availability differs a little bit. Google requires the values in stock or out of stock, but written with a little underscore in between. Facebook essentially requires the same value, but written with a space instead of an underscore. Now, it seems like a really small difference. I get that. But this can be the determining factor for whether your feed gets accepted and you can start running successful ads. Another difference to point out here between Google and Facebook are the mandatory versus optional attributes. If you start by setting up a feed for Facebook and you have, for example, heavily left out the gender, size, color attributes in that product feed, then it's very important that when you start setting up your Google feed, that you consider that these attributes are mandatory and they have to be included. Size and color need to be there for Google, but not for Facebook. It's very important to keep these differences in mind. Now, just to add some more channels to the mix, actually, if we jump, there we go. I've added, as you can see here, TikTok and Pinterest. And this is just to really highlight that there can be quite significant differences in the data requirements across channels. Now, as you can see, you need a lot less data to get going on Pinterest. So if this is the only channel you plan on pushing your products to, well, then you're going to have a much easier time in getting it set up. Excellent. Now, whether it's the best option for Pinterest to be the only channel that you're pushing your data through to, I'll let you determine that yourselves. But if you're looking for a multi-channel approach, it certainly becomes a lot more convenient when trying to keep the overview of your product data to bring a feed management tool into the mix here. Manually controlling the data requirements for every single channel out there, as I said before, can be a full-time job. And letting a feed management provider take care of that task for you will give you a lot more time to actively strategize and execute your advertising strategies. And let's be honest, strategizing and executing the advertising campaigns is probably the reason you, in the first place, joined this webinar. So with that said, it's time for me now to pass the baton on to Jonas, who's going to walk you through some good and bad examples of how to manage your ad catalog. So over to you, Jonas. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Great. And I would just like to emphasize a couple of things there that I think is so important, and we will talk more about it. But really, there's a lot of people talking about data, but really going into the details, what the data actually is. So, and also, for example, in out of stock example, comparing Google to Meta, it is so important that you have the details right, because otherwise you will not be able to serve your ads, or you will serve them to irrelevant people, or so. It is very important, and great note on the details there, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think something that people sometimes can neglect, right? It's, as I mentioned, people come to me with these feeds that they say they push through to every channel, and that's just not going to be an effective marketing strategy. But I don't blame them, because, as I said, I joined the world of e-commerce less than 2 years ago now, and when I first joined, I also assumed, like, surely you just tell them if the product is in stock or out of stock, but it's really not that simple. So these kind of tools really come in very handy.
Yeah. And that leads us into how do you actually use the product feed ads, and how do you take it to the next level here? So, like we started to talk about, like, how to approach the full funnel, and what I would like to really mention here is that product feed ads, it is not just about Google Ads and Performance Max, for example. It is so much more, and it is something that you can actually use all through the full funnel. And the way we do it is that if you start in the bottom right corner, it's important that you understand how you collect your CRM data today. How do you connect it to your, is your market automation system? Where do you send your emails and text, and to doing that in a smart way? How do you have your measurement set up? Is it in Google Tag Manager? Is it server side? Is it client side? Do you have GA4? Can you use GA4? Can you trust it right now? Or how have you done that? And how do you feed the marketing platform data upwards? Because they need data to be able to do a good job, right? And for example, TikTok we are using a lot in the top of the funnel, but like you will see, we will be able to use it all the way through the full funnel in combination with Pinterest, Meta, and Google Ads. So I will give you 4 examples of how to actually find insights and features that will increase your performance from product feed ads. So the first one is that in or out of stock, it is not enough. It is important to know, but it's typically not enough. So let's say that you are here, you look at the start of the curve, you just have your stock and you have your products in stock. And then you start selling them. And then you see what is happening then. For example, are you trajectorying to selling more than you thought or less? So are you aiming to end up on an overstock or missed sales opportunities, for example? And this is something that I see is very important because you can work on this in different ways. So, for example, should you activate more, trying to push more from the marketing perspective, or should you restock to try to sell more because these products seems to be trending really well? And of course, this information about, for example, the stock level and how fast it is pacing, it's something that you can use in the feed to segment it out in different ways as well. And of course, these segments can be done on category, brands, hero products, multiple markets, new releases or new drops. But keeping an eye on the stock and having good understanding of the assortment is very important. And that is something that I see a lot of companies miss out on. The second one is pricing. And pricing, it's not about lowering prices, it's about value. And like young Donald Trump says, it's actually a very low price. It is not about this at all. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. So price point, understanding price point and combine that with marketing metrics. So for example, having a deep understanding of, for example, what is my return on ad spend or my profit on ad spend compared to the price point, for example, is something that is very important, and have a good framework for actually experiment with pricing. I mean, when you get into seasonal sales or sales period, it's about being smart with what small test can you do before, what is the price point that actually makes the customer buy, or the price sensitivity. Maybe you can have something where you can increase prices over time as well, which many companies need to do now with the current situation in the world. So digging into this, price comparison is something that you need to work continuously with. And let me just show you the comparison here between price comparison. If you go into like a Price Runner or Prisjakt or scrape 2 other competitors' sites and you compare the prices, you get what is called an average or the price comparison. But if you look at what happens on Google, for example, when somebody search for this product, you get a couple of options. And then I think it's going to be pretty likely that people will click on the 4th product there. That is 2,000 SEK more. So adding on what we call is the click weighted price. So understand how many clicks you get and also weighted with the price. That will give you a better understanding of what is actually the market price. So then you understand how you price your product compared to the market price. And it's not just about looking at the average, because very few people will click on, for example, here. Or in the case where you actually have a pricing power, where you have people trust you to be able to sell these products, for example. I will show you cases where you can actually increase the prices instead. So this is an example where you can see this. So each dot here is a product, and the size of it is the revenue. And then you can compare on the Y scale here. You have the price point comparison to the click weighted price. And then you have, for example, the marketing metric. Could be profit on ad spend, could be return on ad spend, could be whatever. But then you typically find a couple of segments here. So here you have lower price to your competitors, but it seems like you still have a low return on ad spend. So it seems like the customer don't trust you to actually be selling these products. So these maybe is something you should actually cut away completely, or you need to figure out why are not people buying this. Typically what you see here, it could be that the conversion rate is low, or the bounce rate is high, or the product information is bad. You don't have enough picture, for example. So people don't really trust you on this. Could also be that average order value is low on these segments. But then think about, should we cut these away or not? In the C sector, you typically have, you typically are, I mean, quite close to the market price, and you have a good return on ad spend, for example. But then up here in the A sector, you have products that are selling at a higher price compared to the market at a good return on ad spend. So there is something up here that really makes you being able to sell this up here at this price. So this is a great opportunity, and this is where you can really increase your margins probably. And this is probably due to that you have done a good job with your full funnel, because you have built your brand, that the customer trusts you even more to actually pay a premium for your products, even if you're higher priced to the competitors. So this is where you have a lot of potential. So how do you adjust if a web shop has low price, market price, or like exclusive or VIP part? Many customers, if you go into buy your groceries, for example, you go into ICA in Sweden, for example, and then you have a couple of different ICA, and you compare them to Coop, for example. So you typically adjust the price on the store based on one or two key products. I buy milk often, and then that is important. So people don't typically have the option to actually keep thousands of different price points in their head at the same time. So identifying these products in your assortment is important. And also, how do you want to position yourself? Are you a high-end web shop? Are you a medium, or are you low cost? Because then you need to think about how you price these milk products. So think about what's your milk, and think about how to price them, and continuously experimenting with them. The third one is work with bundles and packages. And here are 7 examples. And this is something that you should put into the product feed as well, so you can work smart with this in a structured way to continuously experiment with price points and bundles and packages. So for example, discount, should it be percentage of price, or should it be an actual off the first purchase, for example? 2 for 1, 3 for 1, multiple save conditions, free shipping, and this kind of different versions. But have somebody who is responsible for pricing to work on this continuously is something that is very important for your margins at the end of the day. And then the fourth one is to use reviews, because if you, for example, have Google showing on the shopping feed, for example, on the shopping ads, if you see the 5-star, I mean, that will be great for you. And I mean, who wouldn't like to wear something that feels like a soft cloud? I really think that's an awesome review. But make sure that you use your stars and to show them, because you will stand out in it. So what type of product feed ads can you use? I said in the beginning that this is not only about Google Ads and Performance Max. It is about so much more. So here are a couple of other examples. So TikTok is launching a lot of new features all the time. It's a very high pace of innovation, and we are working very close with TikTok, and we are really early on testing some of the earliest alpha versions. But for example, when it comes to product sales ads, having the product and the price in the end is something that is definitely worth looking into. For Meta and Facebook and Instagram, of course, that's the collection ads. It's a typical good example of a product feed ad that you should definitely look into. Performance Max, like I mentioned, and then Pinterest. We have seen some really interesting results from Pinterest, very, very promising return on ad spend levels on multiple clients on this. So it's also definitely worth thinking about that in the media mix for next year, for sure. And it's not only about trying to get them who are exactly when they are close to buy. You should really experiment with catalog ads all through the funnel. And we have seen some really interesting results on our studies that even with using the catalog ads as early up in the awareness stage and showing this to cold audience, we have seen some really promising results here as well. So don't just limit yourself when it comes to these kind of ads to just focusing on the do phase where you're close to the purchase. Really try to look at the whole funnel and see where you can do these kind of experiments, because we have seen some really strong results from this. And then it's about setting targets and also understand how to track. So when it comes to, for example, TikTok, we see a lot of companies actually don't do this in the right way from the beginning. You maybe copy a way of thinking from Meta, for example, or you just go straight in. You try to set a conversion campaign. You optimize and say, I want to complete purchase, for example, and you don't have enough events. And it's going to be very tough for the algorithms to actually do something useful with it. So make sure that you start from the top left first when you launch something from completely cold. Make sure that you aim for view content and make sure that you get 50 conversions on this step. Then you add the next step, add to cart. Get the 50 conversions on that step. Then you add initiate checkout, and then you add complete purchase. And if you're forced to try to run faster on this, then you need to just say that, yeah, we need to do this the right way, because it's going to be impossible if we just go straight for the complete purchase and we don't have enough conversions. So make sure that you do it this way and start from the top and feed the data continuously into the algorithms. So a couple of placements examples that are very important. So Performance Max, we see a lot of companies are struggling a bit with how to use this, and we work very close with Google. We're actually one of only 2 companies or agencies in Sweden that were invited to Google's big premium award in Dublin, and we work very close with them, and we're actually testing some new features for Performance Max as we speak, where we can actually go in and manipulate what placements you have. So reach out if you want to have more questions about this, because, for example, here on the display placement from Google Ads on Expressen, maybe that is not how you would like to have your brand shown, for example. And if you look at Oakley's version there on display, also on it, is also not maybe the way you would like it to be perceived. And when it comes to Meta, for example, just pushing a lot of product ads into one story is probably not either the best way to crop it. So being very in the details of the placement, continuously look into it. And I mean, it is a challenge. There is no one solution to fix all of this, but it's a continuously work to improve and control your placements. And of course, I mean, all of these tech companies, they're doing a lot of experiments as well. So expect this to come in the future, that you will see new placements come up. Working close with them is the solution to continuously improve. So then the last part is that now when it's in the end of the year, many of you are doing the final things on the budget planning. So we have built a tool that we call AdHelp, and we have seen that this is a problem for many companies, that you have, for example, you have a Meta account and you have your TikTok account and you have 3 or 4 Google Ads accounts for different countries, and then you're going to try to plan your budget. So we have created a tool where you connect all the data into one place. We can automatically distribute the budget for these different platforms based on historical data. And then you can go in and adjust details manually, so you can actually adjust if you know that you're going to run a big campaign in March, for example. Then, of course, you want to allocate more budget to that, for example. And then when you have done the budget, you want to track the progress. And we see a lot of companies that doesn't connect. You need to connect traffic through with conversion rate, average order value, ad spend, and then of course revenue and cost of sales. So having all of this in one place where you can not only track, but you can also break down and forecast progress. So it's not about what happened last month, it's more about what we see will happen in the coming month. That's the approach we think is important, to be more proactive. And we also know that all of you guys who are marketeers, most of you guys, you love the spreadsheets, right? So of course we provided an instant download function to get all of your data into your sheet as well, if you want to use this and add some other customized scripts and features on it. So if you're interested to be an alpha test user for AdHelp, you can reach out to me, and I can see if you can get you into that program as well. So what will you get from the bonus offers for today, Thomas? Tell us a bit about what you're sending from Channable in the following up here.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah. Now, what I can offer basically to those of you who have been nice enough to stay with us throughout this this webinar so far is a free feed audit, essentially. So I've spoken a lot about feed quality, making sure that you have the attributes that are needed and the data in those attributes that is needed. And you can actually find out yourself whether you have that already now. So this slide deck, I know, will be sent out to those of you who are listening in. And in there, please feel free to click this link here. Now, once you follow this link, you'll be welcome to import your feed into Channable and just take a look at the quality step and find out how likely is it that the feed I have now, if I were to push it out to channel X, wherever you want to push it to, how likely is it that it would actually get accepted? And this can be a really handy thing to do, and it just takes 5 minutes. So it's something I recommend.
Great. And like I mentioned, with AdHelp, reach out if you're interested in being an alpha tester on AdHelp, or if you're interested to talk full funnel marketing and different steps that you see you need help with from Keywordio. Reach out, and we are happy to jump on a call and see what challenges you see for next year. So over to the Q&A section. And Thomas, do you have, in terms of, I mean, you spoke a bit about quality of the data and how important it is. Would you like to expand a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. When it comes to the quality of the data, of course, the higher the quality is, the better your ads essentially will be. Now with Performance Max, of course, we are moving towards a world where everything is more automated, and marketeers seem to be, to some degree, losing a bit of control, right? So maybe there's less control there, but the one thing they can control is how strong is their data. You know, that's what can really determine whether you have successful ads, I think. Of course, I've said a lot about making sure that you have the right data in your feeds, but I actually never explained how do you make sure that you have the data that's needed. That's actually something also which is part of Channable's tool. After you see which attributes are required, we also actually run a quality check on your feed, and we say, okay, based on the data that you have in your feed right now, this is how likely in percent that it is that your feed will be accepted by the channel you're pushing your feed out to. And if it's quite a low score, which often it can be in the beginning, we don't just leave you hanging. Also, we also tell you how you can actually fix that. So if we say product availability, let's say, contains values that are invalid, well, we're also going to tell you which values they then need to contain, so you can go in and change that. I think the key thing with digital marketing right now, since the launch of PMax, is the automation aspect that needs to be considered. And you need to see what is still in your control. And that will always be the product data that you provide.
And I see a lot of examples when it comes to, I mean, Performance Max and even before with Google Shopping. I mean, you were not using you're not using keywords for that, right? So it is super important how the product titles and how they are really really good. And when I say really good, I mean if you're selling a TV, make sure that you have the size of the TV, what other attributes, what's brand, make sure that you have those product titles really optimized and enriched. So typically they come pretty short, but make sure that you enrich the product titles is something that, when it comes to data quality, it is very important.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's something we see a lot at Channable. We deal with a lot of fashion and apparel e-commerce companies, and they of course have. If I take the example from before, the bikini, let's say, right? There are a lot of companies that come to us and say, okay, we have this, and the title is bikini. Okay, cool. How many people are you competing with for that exact keyword, right? Do you have other attributes in your feed? Yeah, maybe the color, the size, the brand, or whatever. So then you can start to play with some rules and say, take your title from being bikini, it can now be orange bikini in size, whatever, from brand, whatever. And okay, maybe it doesn't have to go quite that far, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Like, it's not enough just to have the data. You really need to use it to make the most of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then we have another question about using product feed ads in the full funnel and why are not everyone doing it. I think, at least as I see it, I think it's actually, it's a bit thinking outside the box. I mean, you get the standard thinking from Google. You are close to the purchase, you run your shopping, and then maybe you have, for example, catalog ads are, of course, it's a no-brainer for retargeting, for example. But I mean, always trying to think outside the box and come up with these small experiments and really working with the product feeds ad and experiment through the full funnel. I think that is the mindset. Do you have anything there, Thomas, that you see or hear or?
No, I think what you say is very correct, and the word experiment is also quite important. I think there are, no offense to everybody listening in, but I think there are a lot of self-proclaimed digital marketing experts out there who claim to have the key, the golden solution for everything. But because the e-commerce landscape changes so much and so quickly, experimenting is important. So trying to get your ads actually to have an impact right from the top of the funnel also is it's a fun experiment to see, right?
Yeah. And I just agree that you get I would say you get humble when you work with marketing because it changes so fast, right? So I knew what you said for a year ago is maybe not true anymore, right? And you need to continuously, be interested and curious and try to understand for sure. Yeah. We spoke a bit about the automation and I mean, with companies having thousands of SKUs, it is very important to automate. But do you have any other examples why you see it is so important to make sure that you work with automation?
Yeah, I think time is more valuable now than it's ever been before. Like the more time we can save, the better. And the way we can save time is with automation. I think I'll quite honestly say companies with higher SKU counts will benefit more from automation. Companies selling maybe 4, 5, 6 products in their catalog, okay, maybe it's still manageable, right, to handle things yourself. But if you start looking at really big product catalogs, automation can save you, well, a lot of time and probably also a lot of gray hairs, because the manual processes that you can have to go through with setting up feeds yourself, building them, realizing you missed out something and having to go back to the start, well, it's not a fun process also, I've been told. So therefore, I would say, yeah, automate what you can, right?
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. And also based on the examples that I share, the 4 examples, I mean, think about what business impact you want to make the analysis, and then automate how you can include this in the product feed so you can distribute it and run your marketing more efficient. I mean, that's if you're not doing it, that's what you're missing out on. And circle back the Austin Powers GIF, right? I mean, it's not the one size fits all, right? It's
exactly.
You really need to understand what's the right decision for you and what you should test.
Indeed.
I think the final one about placements and how to control this. I would like to just mention that, I mean, working close to TikTok, Meta, and Google, and being really their top tier partner, that is what we think is the way forward, because it comes so many new things from them all the time, and you cannot just jump on all the features that comes out, but you should really stay close and understand what can really work. And then we get access to things that you don't get access to if you don't work as close as we are. And we are super proud to be one of 2 agencies in Sweden that were invited to Google in Dublin and be the top tier for Meta and TikTok. So being able to do that and work to, for example, controlling placements is something that give us this opportunity. So let's see, we have two final things. So from our customer Klong, we have a great offer for everyone who hasn't finalized their Christmas present. So I really recommend to go into Klong and to get your final Christmas presents. And with that, I would just like to send you off with the highest trending video right now on TikTok to get some final inspiration. And 25 million views. It's growing super fast.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thanks so much for joining.